contact.
Hold the line.
5, 2, 3, 1. Yep, direct hit, keep firing.
Welcome to No Man's Land once more. I am here with sort of a special edition, I guess, but more on that later. First of all, welcome my co-stars here, Mr. Avitus,
Glory to Callahan, brothers.
and then your favorite work, Mr. Dark Leftovers,
For the Emperor.
and of course the squirrel pretending to be a duck, Mr. Skaczynski.
Whack.
Right. So should we jump directly to the? Because I saw some of you already kind of caught up on what's happening here a bit too fast, actually.
Keep the hype train rolling.
I'm gonna just skip over introduction and we're gonna probably talk about that new button.
Let's cut straight into it.
Just right to the topic here. That new button that just appeared for most of you. So I feel like we should probably talk just a tiny bit. Oh my god, Antrox, and you're like, you're such a legend. I was about to just start, discussing about how this is all unnecessary because the main reason we did all
I'm
of
about to
this.
quit my third job.
The main reason we did all of this was so people can enjoy the stream better. So from what I understand, without this affiliation, you wouldn't be able to select like the quality setting for the stream and stuff like that, and that made it for a lot of people very hard to watch us because not everybody has incredible internet and stuff like that. So that was
watching YouTube videos and stuff as well, won't it? So
yeah. So it was like it was mainly a convenience thing. We really wanted for all of you to be able to to basically min-max your settings. And of course, now that we have the possibility, we'll definitely look into getting some emotes for you boys so you can enjoy them. Something, that represents all of us and, you can have some fun with them. Well, it was pretty short time, right? It happened this week. And I know Dark and Cass worked really, really hard on it, trying to do some useful content for you guys with their little show. I hope everybody enjoyed their effort because I know I did.
very informative under the helmet.
Exactly, yeah. I've been watching it, binging it really when I have the time, and it has been extremely useful. You guys should catch it on YouTube as well if you didn't catch the actual streams. Yeah,
Only post them.
yeah. Well, I do what I can. Right. You guys want to add anything about the button more, or
This is mainly for Maybar.
yeah?
Let's cut to the chase. This is all for Maybar.
This is all
Full
for
steam.
Maybar. He couldn't watch the stream, so we made it so he can. I hope everybody can understand that. It's all good. So yeah, the last thing I'm going to say before jumping to the next topic is, and I know this is very cliche and you hear it all the time, but I need to say it because we actually mean it. Don't feel any fucking obligation to do anything like subscribe or stuff like that. That is purely here for your convenience. And Jesus,
Oh my
Andrex.
god, just give me everything.
That's
Yeah,
purely
I'm
for your convenience, and we don't expect you guys doing it. And I want to clear up one thing from the start. Anything that you guys give is gonna go back into 82DK in one shape or form, right? So any sort of thing that goes donated here or comes through the subscription system, we're gonna put it as usual in TeamSpeak art, whatever it takes for the clan.
It'll be
Nobody's
recycled.
making any bucks.
I love that.
What?
Pays the salaries of people making G supplies.
What? I'm not getting paid. Why am I here?
Oh shit. Cat's out of the bag.
We got this totally roll for a G supply carrier, Avidus. If you'd like to talk.
Well,
learn
we
more
have
about
to we have to start paying our scrappers. I think it might actually get to that point where we're going to have to like employ like call center workers to actually work the fucking scrap fields.
Wait, why the fuck did you give me a sub?
No, I think it's random.
All money donated goes straight back into the scrap fields, guys, making sure that the Warden faction gets all its resources. So, yeah.
Right.
it. Moving on from the button.
Yeah, because the hype train finished, we can now finally move on.
Train is derailed now.
And let's go directly from a hype train to a derailed train that is probably killing
More like an accident.
everybody in its path.
So the hype trains came off the track, and now it's crashed into a previously crashed train, which is the Dead Harvest event. So here we go.
I don't even know. So I'm just gonna start with what exactly happened for people that didn't follow that. So the event started Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I think it started Monday, and basically you had these new zombies. We talked about them in the last stream, and it had this new mech they worked on. Pretty cool mech. We
Yeah.
actually got to see it. We were one of the lucky ones that actually got to see it. And basically the war ended before we even got to unlock them. In the world at the time the war ended, there was one colonial mech that I understand died, and then there was two warden mechs that one of them was with us. It Pv'd everything from Tempest to Hermit's Rest, and the other one was with EDC and Gas, and it participated in the Blemish battle, from what I understand. All three mechs that were actually made this were all prototypes, so they weren't actually fully unlocked mechs. And that's about it. We don't know exactly if tomorrow the war is gonna contain them or not. I think the devs would have announced it if such, but yeah, long lines, a lot of work there from the devs, just sent to the trash bin in like 5 days.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that we don't know that because I wouldn't surprise me in the least if they're still trying to figure out the answer to that themselves, right? Like, I mean, because it would be so much like if they were to take a second and think about it, the best thing for them to do would be to not replicate Dead Harvest, but put the vehicles in the tech tree at least for the factions to enjoy, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, at least put some of that design time to work there.
I think what might be a good idea for the mechs. I know that they're not wanting to put them into the game, and they've said time and time again, vision, blah blah blah. We've all heard that argument a million times. But what I think the mechs definitely have a place in Foxhole. I mean, I remember even saying to you at the time yesterday, Razor, these look aesthetically okay to be in the game. They don't look out of place. You know what I mean? They look completely fine. So what I think might be a good idea, and taken away from the fact of how many people would be instantly interested in Foxhole, is if you plastered one of those colonial mechs on the front cover. You know what I mean? Everybody like that is into mechs and stuff like that would instantly get into Foxhole just by seeing that image. But then you only need to put the mechs into the tech tree, have it as a choice maybe once every 10 wars or something like that. Have it as a really, really late game tech that only appears, very, very rarely, on a new patch war or something like that. One that's going to like last a long time, that they know that it's going to be a full war. When they have a sale or something like that, put them into the game then to advertise the game, because they're such good vehicles and they've had so much love and attention given to them. It's so frustrating to see them just thrown into the bin for another year.
As bad as this tech system is, they have the infrastructure to pull this stuff in and out. I have to imagine pretty seamlessly, by choosing what vehicles are available at what tech tiers. Like I can't imagine it's going to be that difficult if they so chose to bring them in, bring them out according to whatever ways they want to make the wars feel different and identifiable, because they have identified that as a goal that they want to pursue, and this would certainly get there.
So the one thing I know for certain from what I heard and I followed, Mark is pretty adamant about the mechs never actually make it into the final game, as they don't fit, according to him, on the atmosphere and lore and whatever else you want with Foxhole. To that, I personally have to say, just move the atmosphere and the lore of the game from where it is to a steampunk atmosphere. Like it's like, and again, like it's like, look at all the games that embrace this steampunk atmosphere, and how popular they become only for this aspect. Like, it doesn't matter if the game is even good or bad. It's exactly like 40k, right? People like 40k. People tend to end up in DK because they like 40k. They see a 40k element in Foxhole, so they join us, right? On the same premises, if Foxhole would have been like, even create new lore right now and say, the war takes a turn towards steampunk, right? And the wardens go, and the colonials as well go and start inventing mechs and shit, right? Why would that be so bad? I don't really see the bad part of something like that. I know about you guys. Like, is
It's
anybody like? Do you guys know of people not liking steampunk? Like the majority,
it's almost as if they're holding on to an aesthetic that nobody else knows exists. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to hold on to this like World War II aesthetic, but I mean, I don't get. I mean, not anymore. After playing the game for so long, do I get World War II vibes from Foxhole generally
No,
anymore?
it kind of feels more like Afghan or like a, you know,
Yeah, it does now,
it's like
doesn't it?
like Vietnam style type things. You know what I mean? Like World War II, maybe even a little of one is like kind of out the window. It's like
Yeah.
it feels more like a 1940s but modern day. You know what I mean? Like, you have these more guerrilla warfare based tile like skirmish battles, but nothing really that gives you that setting of World War II in one.
And I think the correct answer, especially in this day and age, is to stray away from from real wars and real conflicts that went on in history, because you're always going to get those people that are going to come in and say, you know, that things are different for different reasons. I really think that they need to embrace the universe that they've created and sort of expand upon that, and not just go for like quote unquote realism, because Foxhole's, I mean, far from that anyway. You know what I mean? So I don't know why they're trying to go down that route.
It is something to be careful with, because I think there was miscalculation somewhere. I know there's a whole lot of things all going on at the same time, but the population count during Dead Harvest was pitiful. I mean, absolutely pitiful, right? From players that
Yeah,
participated.
but it wasn't that way because of the mechs.
Sure,
You know
no
what I
doubt,
mean?
no doubt. But I'm talking about the overall theme.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that my experience with Dead Harvest, the first 2-3 hours of Dead Harvest were really, really fun. I cannot deny that. In one, when there was only basic zombies and everybody just had rifles, and the only way that you could face zombies was in a choke point. If you had loads of people that were in abandoned ward at the start of the war will realize what I'm talking about, where you're getting into firing lines where there's guys prone in a line, then you got guys crouched behind them in a line, and then you got guys standing behind them in the line, and they're all aiming their rifles down the bridge trying to take these zombies on coming on the other side, and we're not getting through. We're not killing all of them. Some of them are getting through, and it was great. It was such fun. But I'd like, after that initial phase, it the same as last year. It devolved into what we got, really.
Yeah, and like, I was really sad to see that. I understand they didn't want to put effort into creating a entirely custom sort of scenario for it, but like you say right now, like, what if they did a custom scenario in the sense of keeping it simple, right? Like, keeping it on a not that evolved equipment basis. So, like, keep it with sticks and stones and add mechs. How cool would that have been? Like, just have, you know, basic infantry and mechs, Iron Harvest all the way.
I mean, I'd have played in that war.
And just give the mechs out really, really soon, right? Because how many people do you reckon were like, they joined, they saw there's no mechs yet, and were like, well, yeah, I'll come back when the mechs unlock.
Yeah.
And then they never did, so they never came back. It's simple as that.
I mean, whoever thought of the bright idea to add logi in zombies was absolutely like, I don't know. I would like to know who's the person that, one, thought of it, two, okayed it, and three, safe checked it, because that's just like something really just frustrating. One of the worst things about the game is tied down to your event. You know what I mean? Like, there's no zombies unless you're willing to grind to do. You know what I mean? To make the damn materials to make the soul stones. It's like, really now.
Well, goal. I don't per se know what you refer to when you say the sun chips incident. You can tell us about it if you want. Um, Independent of that, though, like I don't think a thing or another should influence an event like this. Like, this is a once a year event that needs to feel unique, right? That's why we have vehicles that are only available once a year, and the starting conditions and the scenario of the war were anything but unique. They felt like just another war, but there was also some zombies running around. That was the atmosphere, like Avatar said, after the initial few hours of sticks and stones, like I like to call it, skirmishing, right?
I,
And
I
and that shouldn't have been the case, if you ask me. It should have felt special to everybody.
the only time that I would say that Dead Harvest has ever worked is probably the first ever Dead Harvest, where it was on that separate map, and the Colonials and Wardens were together, and you were trying to hold off the zombie horde sort of thing. The only thing I would say to that is, make it a smaller map separate from the main war, and have it in turns where perhaps one game the Wardens are the zombies, and the next game the Colonials are the zombies, or something like that. I think that's the correct way to go with it. And next year, I really hope that they bring back the first iteration of Dead Harvest, because I think 2 years running, it's starting to get to the point where people. I mean, Kaz, perfect example. Veterans are literally skipping the war every year now because they just can't be asked for Dead Harvest, and they know it's going to be a flop, which it has been again.
So Gold is telling us that apparently I didn't know this. Sunchips apparently got banned because somebody said some racist word after killing him, and yeah, that's really unfortunate. I really like Sunchips and I like his stream. I think he's a really fun guy, but I don't. I'm sorry, Gold, but I don't see that like changing anything. Yeah, I see some people being mad about it or like even ruining their time, but that doesn't really make it so two teams shouldn't like play at all. Because think about it, after the initial day one hype that everybody was into, then population went plummeting for like no reason really, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, what I heard, the only place I saw like a plummet in population was on there were two places. On event announcements, I saw a lot of people decide they weren't going to play it from the start, myself included. And then like day one of the war, when safe houses were being PvE'd because of how crazy the strength of the zombies were, I guess. Then another wave of people left, most of them being Colonial, because Colonial suffered the most material loss from that
Initial
stupidity.
debacle, yeah.
Yeah, and so and again, I think a large population. I think I didn't play, but from what I heard from other people that did, is that there were very few Colonial veterans in sight the entire war.
And the last
for
thing
all 6 days of it.
the last thing I want to say on this is, because you brought up a very good point with the zombies being really OP on buildings, and Colonials taking that huge morale dip because of what happened. I want to point again. Some people might find it bitter, but I think it's relevant. I've talked in the past about that beta testing server that the devs had, and used the most veterans there to experiment shit. Like, if we actually had some medium of testing, or if they actually did some proper testing, or if they gave access to some people early, like they did with the streamers in the past with the vehicles and whatever, people would have pointed out, like, wait a minute, these zombies are way too powerful. They take buildings down way too fast. You guys can't release it like this. And it again goes to show that the argumentation that they do their own testing and they do it good and stuff, it's not working. It's not working. They're not testing it properly. Like,
Well,
somebody should have spent some time to, like, you know I get it. It's hard to test something out in a small scale when it's gonna happen in a fucking 70v70 afterwards. But still, I would argue full-heartedly that somebody with experience, a veteran player of this game, would have looked at those zombies and would have said, no, like, this is not gonna work, guys. They do way too much damage if they had
It's
access to it.
almost it's almost as if like they had a closed beta server slash testing group and they just got rid of it.
Well, I think that the zombies may not have been nearly as much of a problem if the pop wasn't such a problem. And so, and I don't know that with certainty, but I imagine that they expected a more severe, like a higher participation that may have changed, how broken that was. Because a lot of it was, just as you said, PvE, and those zombies are really good with infinite ammo when there's no QRF. I
Yeah.
mean, so I mean that's a problem.
That's in general with Foxhole in a nutshell, though. You get what I mean? Like,
Yep, absolutely.
anything is crazy if you have someone that's uncontested with nothing but ammo, and it's like, I mean, you have like people like what's his name, Rustard Gaming, that just go on back lines and just destroy literally everything because there's no one there to stop them. The in population thing, I feel like we're talking a little more ahead. I'll switch to that when we talk about it. I'll just keep it to the Dead
Sure.
Harvest thing, but I think it would, just simply short, or to simplify it, if the pop wasn't an issue, Dead Harvest would have succeeded a lot more.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yes, I also think it's a good segue to go towards that, because I don't know if there's much to be said about the war. If you guys find there's anything left to be said about it, I, it wasn't that bad for us, of course, but it wasn't fun either to not be able to fight. And, like, I know a lot of people are gonna be butthurt about not getting the max. But I think it is important and it is good that it happened the way it happened, because hopefully stuff like this actually gets to the devs rather than there's enough precedent that we can say people trying to give feedback is not enough. It clearly doesn't get to either Mark or whoever is the decisive factor into things like this. So I'm personally hoping that something as extreme as a war ending before the content is even unlocked is gonna actually at least make them raise an eyebrow, right? Say, well, maybe something didn't well. Maybe we could have done something better ourselves in this one scenario, at least.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried this type of protest before. PAX Visions from a few years ago, but like we'll keep trying, and one day they may deem it possible to look down to our lowly depths.
What they need to really, really do again is what they did last time, even though it didn't really hold much results to my extent, is they need to have another meeting with the community people, like for example, for the logistic thing, where they had like everyone in the same room and they got to herd certain people. You know what I mean? I feel like that's something to, like, I understand they want to fix things the way they want to fix things, but they have to really like try harder to get in touch, just to know what are the real problems, especially if they're stumped, because there's nothing wrong with admitting you don't know how to fix it because you don't really know what the issue is. You try to do everything right, but it ends up always failing. There's nothing wrong with just asking, like, hey guys, what do we need to do? Just
Well, and I'm afraid for that because most of the community feedback is unconstructive, and I think that there's a certain bit of bitterness probably from the development team because I mean, if you go to FOD or to Reddit and look at some of the quote unquote player feedback, it's not constructive at all, and some of the feedback is not only is it not constructive, it's outright destructive. Like if they were even to begin to heed those thoughts and ideas, it'd be a problem. So yeah, you got to imagine it's a tough place just trying to empathize just a little bit, not to fully defend it, but
I empathize with that section of it, but if it's all if they have to sift through the drudge just to pick out the gems of
Absolutely.
constructive feedback in the channels, like, why aren't they thinking? I don't want to say this is outside of the box because it's not really, but why aren't they thinking like, right, once a year we'll send our community manager round to all of the leaders of all of the clans in the community just to get their honest feedback on the game once a year? Like, that is just off
It's
the top of my fucking head.
I
Uh,
mean,
that,
You know what I mean?
oh
it's
man,
so funny because like before you actually said what you said, I was like thinking I wanted to butt in after you finished to point out like this feedback issue goes directly to the community manager, and then you instantly went in with that point, and it's so funny because like solving the issue that Kaz just presented, right? How do you solve that issue? It's simple. You get a community manager. What does the community manager have to do with it? Well, the community manager should be in charge of actually figuring it out for the team, saying, well, I have went through the feedback, I have identified people that actually constantly brought constructive criticism to the table, and maybe we should look into these opinions for more feedback and such, right? That's a process that if it does happen, it's so somewhere in the back end of things that is invisible, because from what I'm seeing and from what I'm talking with other at least wardens, because I don't have access to colonials that much, there, the only people that I have ever heard were consulted about stuff regarding the game are in 90% of the cases the people that agree with them full-heartedly. So that's the precondition to get any words into something that like you're gonna be allowed to speak. Like you can see Mark in KFC on press corp all the time showing up and talking to whoever wants to jump in there to talk to. So that, yes, they're gonna sit there and listen to you, but they're not gonna actually hear you. Is my conclusion personally.
Yeah.
They're gonna listen to you, but they're not hearing you. They're just like you know giving you
Surface.
exact, like it sounds to me personally, it sounds like they're reading off of predefined answers for the most common stuff people
Yeah.
ask, and they just keep that to creating this illusion of, oh, we're extremely in tune and extremely interested in hearing what the people have to say, but it feels like there's actually zero chances of you actually coming up with something and them saying, well, that might actually get into the game, that might actually, or not necessarily exactly, because like again, I don't think anybody is going to consider themselves some sort of game designer that can give a perfect feedback or some perfect
But
modification,
I think
but
I
an
think
element.
people understand the game, the way the game works, and they can make judgments based on that. You don't need to be a game developer to know that. You know what I mean? Like, you can literally have played the game for years, like some of us have, and know it that intricately that you can tell that something's just not going to work. And I just don't think you need to be a game designer for that. If you know Foxhole, then you know Foxhole.
but what we offer ultimately, what is relevant, everything else said, yes, we're not game designers, and yes, we will have imperfect balance suggestions, but we are the authorities on what the player experience is. Being the biggest consumers of that player experience, we've got pretty relevant feedback on what creates a positive player experience, what creates a negative player experience, and that is arguably if you want to oversimplify it, the most relevant factor to player retention, which this game has been struggling with tremendously. Like I think I can boldly say the game struggles with player retention. I don't think that that's a huge controversial statement.
No, it isn't at all. So the only like through my experience, there is rare cases of people that are outside of clans that have stuck around for a very long time, but those are the exception rather than the rule. Like, the game, in my eyes, is made up of retained players that are primarily there for their clans, and I'm not just talking about ours. I'm talking about Warden Navy, blah blah blah.
Sure.
These people, they stick up with the game, not necessarily for the game, but for the community that they have developed within it. Certainly the case for me, but it just when you've got a game like that is it's only retaining its players because of outside influences. It's really not a good fucking sign. You know what I mean? And I really wish they'd wake up to that fact. You know what I mean? The only reason that they have anybody playing their game right now, in my opinion, is that aren't, past, sergeant or whatever, is because of clans. And it's because of these communities that have developed within the game. And that's the only reason that they've got any population right now.
It would be really interesting to see, some numbers. They don't exist because the in-game clan system doesn't function. But what the engagement is like between group affiliated players versus independent players as it relates to both participation and longevity in the game. I'd be really interested in that.
I don't want to chime in, but I feel like we should just get to the next
Sorry.
topic already. I feel like we have one that will follow through. We can tackle.
Yeah, well,
literally right here.
Yeah, we was about to say we sort of went into it anyway. I just was like slow to change the screen because we're already here.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for some time anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, keep talking about it. My bad. I didn't know the next slide.
Dark, I think you had some thoughts on this, Dark. So I mean, I think you were kind of saving some of your thoughts for this moment.
It's just frustrating how everyone has these opening ideas. Well, we'll fix, what we can do to fix the game. We can do this, we can do that. But ultimately, it's not us to decide. It's the devs to really, take ownership and fix their own game.
True enough.
I'll get this out of the way. I mean, obviously, I feel like a broken record when I'm saying this. But since that title's on the screen, I have to say there is a serious imbalance in the law, and I think that is a huge factor for player retention on the colonial side, not on the warden side. I won't go too much further into that because I've been a broken record on the subject over the past few streams, but that is definitely a factor.
Yeah, I can agree as well because, like you pointed out a lot of times, it's almost impossible to replicate what we have with Callahan without having an actual persona. And like you pointed out, it goes so much outside the Foxhole with Callahan and with the fact that he people identify it with the Emperor of of the faction, and there's a lot of 40k people in this game. I don't know if people realize how many 40k people are in this game. There's so many people getting attracted.
I think it's more the fact that 40k people come to the game, they join 82DK, and then they're retained. So we've just gradually built up 40k fans over the years that have been retained rather than leaving the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you have a variety of people that are attracted to this game, but they cycle it, they leave. And I mean, the subject is population imbalance, and for whatever reason, we are hitting a period. And I think some of our historians in the community have noted that this is not the first time we've hit periods like this where there's been a huge imbalance between one faction and the other, and it's been colonials at some point, it's been wardens at some point, depending on where you look in the past.
It's never been this bad though. Never ever been this bad. I can tell you, I've been playing this game 3 years now, something like that. I've been through population dips. I've been through whatever. But generally, what happens in a population dip is both sides are dipped in their population. Yes, you'll have a Saturday where we roll along and wardens might be overpopulated, and then the next day colonials might be overpopulated or whatever. But generally speaking, even when in a dip in population, both sides will be dipped. This is not a dip in population because the game's getting boring or anything like that, or new things aren't coming out for the game and things like that. It's because of the one side just absolutely fucking trouncing the other for several wars in a row.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, so I don't think it's worth relitigating, but a big source of that is the overwhelming perception of vehicle imbalance. And I'm not going to go back down that discussion or say that it is or it isn't, because it's not for us to say, but the community believes it is, so it's a real problem.
Yeah.
And the community is across factions as well, that belief persists.
I'm so confident in our faction now. I don't know about other wardens, but I really wouldn't care if the colonials got a tech advantage over us or got really advanced vehicles or something like that. It's got to the point now where I actually wouldn't mind losing a war. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just to fight in our maps, because it's getting tiring. Just walking over towns like there's nothing there and things like that, and it's nothing like it was before. You're getting entire regions getting invaded yesterday, like we did with the landing ships. Huge orchestrated event, and I think like 3 colonials turned up to the last town that we were taking. You know what I mean? It just
Allegedly, Evie had a bit of more of a fight on the rush landing, by the way. But yeah, still nothing out
Nothing
of
to
the
stop.
ordinary. Yeah, and there was some resistance on Redactus and Scarus's front towards the town as well. But what was shocking to me and to a lot of our guys is the actual logi hub on Tempest actually fell to lack of shirts and BMATs, and there was a scrap yard inside of the town next to the refinery, which was like like what the fuck, like that actually shows that everybody there was a new player. Because like anybody who actually had any experience into the game would have known to go and get some scrap, refine it real quick, and make some shirts. I know I'm laughing about it, but at the same time you could cry about it because it's as funny as it's
I cringe every time like I kill a corporal. I was killing corporals yesterday as one of the big tank zombies, and I cringed every time I killed one because I know when I kill that person, I know for a certain fact that guy has just picked up Foxhole today. You know what I mean? And this is his experience that he's having with it. This is the war that he's came in and he's an experience in Foxhole for the first time. And like, if I got the game today and logged onto Foxhole today to play it, I would log out and ask for a refund. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
well, on your point, Godio's even saying it in chat. We had a point yesterday where we were in a relic base. We were just like taking it down, and we had like I think 5 Balors in there, the tank zombies, and we were just mashing that stuff, and a colonial spawns in. It was a poor guy had no rank, and like instantly out of instinct, 3 Balors just fucking like just block him in instantly, and and then I think he tried spawning one more time, and of course the same thing happened, and then we never saw him again. Like I like you said, I was cringing, watching it. It was like so bad for him, like. I was like discussing it with Godi and the rest. Can you imagine just buying this game? I'm gonna click this button here and spawn into the world, and instantly spawn in and get surrounded by these monsters, things that you don't understand what they are, and then just like clap you instantly inside of a base that you'd expect you'd be safe in because you spawn there or some stuff like that.
Oh, hey guys, I just got the game. Ah!
And then it really stems down to the big issue. I like to keep saying that this is the devs' problem. They need to fix. There's nothing we can do as clans, because right now the colonial clans, most of them are either not playing, non-existent, or don't even want to bother. And there's too few number of them to really like. I mean, they can't respond everywhere. End of the day, I think most, if any, clans were online. They were in the Blemish fight, right? But with that being said, even if they had, like, let's just say they had the equivalent of a DK oriented clan, that isn't enough to really fix the big presenting issues we have. Because if the warden clans have reacted the same way the colonials clans have, that either they're not playing the game will be absolutely like flatlining. Like that is it. Like there's nothing. The only warden population we have are just the loyalists that are willing to just keep playing because for the sake of that's what we do. But ultimately, putting reliance on the clans themselves to be the population is not good. The core issue is the game, in generally speaking, is not fun. I'm putting it just flat out there. The game's not fun for you to want to have fun. You have to do like 60% grind to even think about having fun, and even then, the play scale of grind to fun ratio is abysmally, like there's too much grind for you to have little fun, and who wants to do that?
And it's
I mean,
impossible to do unless you're affiliated with a group, even, right? So like no matter what you do in this game, in my opinion, like Logi is at the top of my list of pain points, but they gather together in a group to mitigate some of that. And then you look at, and I'll take infantry again. I love infantry. I love playing infantry. I will not play by myself though. Like I could log on the front and go grind out some infantry play, but it's not fun. It's only fun when I'm playing with somebody else. And so the fact that there's not a gameplay loop available that's enjoyable for isolated players, and as a general rule, is a huge issue that I think is driving the population down. And the colonial faction is traditionally more decentralized, less organized, and they suffer more from that gameplay loop, I think.
And this is an ideologically that the philosophy they even expressed, where they want to treat people that you're just a cog in a machine, you're not important by yourself, but in the same breath they still want to cater to that single person experience. You know what I mean? Like I'll tell you this right now, if you want to play Foxhole by yourself, you're not playing it the right way. It is not the way to play the game. The game is made for co-op and coordination. That's what it's about. It's a war sim game. You are a faction playing against another faction, and it's like, and I don't want to bring real life into this, but I mean, like think of the different branches of the military as different clans. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is. You have everything split off with different functions happening everywhere. You don't just have a militia-based army of everyone with guns and just roaming around to like try to achieve something. You have chaos over there, and that's why colonials kind of have that chaos, and chaos thrives in the colonial faction. The warden is kind of a little more better shaped and sharpened, so they kind of have. And you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the Warden faction overall has just, we've grown as a faction, and there's a lot of people that have been playing the game for a long time. We've got to know each other. We've formed relationships across clans and stuff like that. And then I think one day we just all just sort of said, well, for Callahan, and sort of put our differences aside and work towards that singular goal. And it's been working almost too well for the past few wars. Sorry.
But
Yeah.
It's just that there's no one really playing. Things are going well is because you get me, like there's no one to stop you. If you make a score, the only thing that's going to stop you is your own skill.
I get that, but what I'm referring to is even when the update dropped and we had that huge war with a massive population, it was even evident back then, you know what I mean, that we had vastly superior organization in our leadership, because they weren't making concerted efforts, if you remember, in that first war.
I think vastly superior is a little bit overstatement. I think we edged out a victory, but it was competitive. I mean, I don't think we decisively won.
I'm with Kaz on this one. Yeah, it was for the longest time there was a pretty stalemate-ish atmosphere.
They had us on the back foot for a long time. In my opinion, mainly due to the like things like the mortar half track and shit like that.
Well,
like
that came in a later update.
I'm remembering it wrong, but yeah. Never mind.
But that war, the mortar half track war, is an example somewhat to what you're talking about. But even that war was competitive. The reason that war turned is they got annoyed and stopped playing.
Exactly.
I mean, we could say that they lost morale, whatever the reason, but they stopped. I mean, the bottom line, they just stopped having fun, and they're not going to continue to play if they're not going to have fun. And that's a real issue. If you want to boil it down and simplify it and get away from some of the things, because we're driven a little bit more differently. We find enjoyment in, I guess, the culture that we've created, right? And they find enjoyment in the gameplay, and the gameplay is not enjoyable. And it's not wrong to find enjoyment in the gameplay. That's where you should be able to find it. But it's just the mechanics that make it up. You have to have something added to it to really get the spice that Foxhole is, which is really interesting, because when you do add that spice and you get that spice in the right place, Foxhole is amazing. Like, you transform what I'm going to call, if I could be slightly offensive, a garbage game into a really incredible experience, because you've got that spice of coordination on top of it that really brings it to the next level.
Yeah,
It's like adding a little salt to your meal. You get what I mean? Like a bland meal, put a little spice, and bam, suddenly it's alive now. You can go, Riz.
And in my opinion, it goes back to some critical things that they have continued to be delayed for forever now, and those basically are the systems that were supposed to be introduced half a year ago, a year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and they have been consistently delayed and not talked about to this day. My favorite examples of these are the the operation systems. You remember we had that operation system
Yeah.
that was removed, and it was promised at the removing time of it, we are taking this out because we're building something much better, but we need to remove it first in order to be able to build that integrated thing that was promised. It would integrate the storage system and the clan system that they called the regiment system. And we were basically promised this incredible system that basically gets the squad, the storage, and the communication system all together in one system. That was basically the promise there. And after they completely butchered the well, not perfect but working system we had back there for operations and squad, where you had officers and that was way easier to organize. After that point, they started working on everything but that. They started working on logistics, on buildings, on all sorts of aspects of the game, but they have missed the most important aspect, if you ask me. Because aside from logistics, aside from buildings and tanks and vehicles and all of that stuff they introduced since then, the most important aspect of this game is intel, is communication, is like even in reality it's the same fucking principle. In war, what is the most important thing in war? Information, intelligence, knowing stuff, being able to coordinate your troops and such. And this is where Foxhole lacks the most. Think about like what did they add since 1 year ago? A logi tab on the chat. That's it. How is, like, come on, like,
I hadn't really
honestly.
thought about this in significance. I've been so focused on other areas, but you're absolutely right. Like you could solve some of the common player issues by having integrated, well-formed collaboration tools in the system that I don't think are a big ask. I mean, we've been talking more recently about Foxhole Global HQ, but as a collaboration tool, if that were integrated into the game itself, and people could have their own setups where they can interact with a map and in real time with their unique group of people that they've built with an in-game system, and they could set objectives and set logi routes and set all kinds of stuff that, from a player engagement perspective, engages the player a lot more directly and engages them in the right way in building small collaborative groups of people. And so you could have the Saltbrook Defense Force, and it's a group of randoms that have cobbled together this system where they've got their own plans in place, and it's all on the map and everybody sees it, and people are setting objectives and stuff. Like, be sick, be absolutely sick.
Yeah, and the thing is, sadly, I have this nugget of information that when this global HQ platform was presented to Markfoot with the like hint of maybe at some point even integrating it into the game, Markfoot was like, well, this is really cool, but it's extremely complicated for the game. Like it's way too in detail for what we want in the game. And it was saddening, and it's still saddening because I don't know how many of you have used it, the HQ Global tool, but it's extremely good. It's extremely useful. And sure, maybe it has too many features. I can agree to that. You don't need all the features that it offers. But that wasn't what was proposed there. That nobody proposed that every single tiny feature the guys that work their asses off to make that need to be introduced. But a system where instead of like yelling at each other over chat what is needed in the fob, have a little like window pop up or some stuff where you can like pin like an order or something, or like God forbid even have like how games have this little notebook where you can open up the map and other useful stuff, and in that notebook you could add a tab where you have like logi orders and stuff like that. And there was so many good and constructive criticism and feedback here. Like I don't remember where I heard it or if it was even like went into detail. I just remember the idea of logi players wanting the system where they could just like see like a Uber system sort of a thing, right? People would post orders there. I think there's a guy, I don't remember his name exactly, maybe chat can help us, but I know for a fact there's a guy that does that. He has like his own platform, Lad Gaming or something like that, I'm not exactly sure, and he just like delivers stuff to people, right? Like people can put orders in and say like, oh well, I need some RPGs and some shells and stuff like that, and he's gonna go into a logi hub, do do that order for the guy and then Lads Logi. Okay, somebody told me Lads Logi. That's the name. I mean, that guy has a incredible idea. It's really, really, really fun idea. It's actually run by Goal and Molito. Good job. Like, that was an incredible example from you guys of something that could actually be implemented in the game, if you ask me. Like, they could come to you and say, like, let's put this thing into the game. It would be so cool. And I know of so many people in our clan that would be like, yeah, I would fucking you just like log into to this Lodge Uber and just deliver random people stuff they need.
Yeah,
That
so
sounds fun.
like you've got like maybe a tab that you can open up, like that's a message board with like jobs that you can just pull down and take this job for this guy and
Exactly.
Flemish or whatever. Yeah.
You can look down there and see, like, oh, look, Kaczynski's over in Salzburg. He needs, like, gas masks. Let me just fucking run over.
Only bayonets.
Yeah, so that's like, and, props to you guys at Lads Logi for doing stuff like that. And it's actually a huge shame, in my opinion, that devs don't pick up on incredible ideas like this and try to implement them. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be exactly how you guys do it. They can put their own spin on them, right? They don't need to like copy or get you guys to do it yourself or anything like that. Just simply consult you guys, like maybe talk about the way you guys did it and how they can replicate it into the game effectively.
And I think that's ultimately where a lot of players are frustrated, and I think where the community is, ultimately leaving, is that there are the development direction, specifically with this most recent update. I think as a net average is overwhelmingly negative for the community, and that there have been more things that have been takeaways and disappointments than there have been additions. And the developers seem to be attacking things they're not like central core gameplay issues, such as adding this vehicle system that they've added at this time when there are so many other foundational systems beneath it that are causing it issues, and then going a step backwards. I know we talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning again because it really is this bad. The tech system and the way that they've literally moved from an automated test system to a grindy tech system is legit the worst decision that they could have done of many bad decisions. But it is the opposite direction they need to take the game.
So, and what's interesting, like right now that you say that, it's a real simple fix if we could get the best of both worlds. Because even though right now it's an accumulation of what you tech, because they just fixed it where there's no more tech splitting.
Yep.
But they can still have it where the tech is automatically automated. Like, you don't have to really invest into making blueprints. But if they were to make it, like bring it back like where it was before, where it would automatically, produce a tech, but what you are prototyping will help influence it. Like you have till the end of the day to make as much prototypes to get it your chance or whatnot. You get what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the grind without the grind. Basically, just like less grinding for the same result is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like, you get what I mean? Like, it's a win-win for that. It's like you have both foundations. Now you just have to combine them both. And then it's like, you still have the people who get to build their prototypes. And then you still have the people who don't, like, you don't have that urgency to, you get what I mean? To produce.
And like some, I know a colonial point. I'm just sorry I didn't got his name, but like I know he was pointing out, and it's a very valid point to point out, right? Especially in their situation. You have this tech system that relies on people scrapping, and you have the colonial faction underpopulated. Well, of course they're gonna fucking fall behind, right? Like they have less people scrapping. It's like common sense. And
weren't they ahead of us on tech though? Even with that condition, I thought I heard somebody say that.
I'm not sure, and even if it is, like, still, like it just like makes no sense to me, right? Especially because what's the solution offered to this issue, right? What's the overall solution? More queues, more waiting times. You just sit there and wait more, and just like look at the ceiling. And because we got to queues, because like I know we had this sale thing for Halloween. Imagine the people that actually bought the game and went went on the Warden faction. They literally their first contact with the game was probably a queue. That's like
Mhm.
ridiculous if you ask me. Like,
That just needs to get off. Like, I understand the reason for it, but it's like the whole point of early access to me is to collect data to see what works with your game, what doesn't work with your game. How can I get this game to be the best version of itself on 1.0? And it's like, how is the queue system still there? And like this self care, which is respectable in one sense, but treating the game right now that it's 1.0, like we want it to be, we want it to feel like you're getting a finished product already. Like by default, we know what we're getting ourselves into when we're doing early access, but we want to help make it to that 1.0, not to just sit around and be prevented to play the damn game. You get what I mean?
yeah,
Like
I
how can I
know.
give
At
you
least add some for the like protection for the new guys. Like, I don't know, some fucking thing that detects that it's like their first 10 hours in the game and don't queue them. Doesn't matter what they choose to do. Like, don't
Right.
destroy their fucking experience before the experience even started. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
because it's real brutal. It's real brutal. You can wait like about 30 minutes in the queue. And if you don't know what you're doing, like with Steam giving you 2 hours minimum or maximum before you refund, I'm not going to wait past maybe even 5 minutes if I'm a new player. It's like, fuck that. If I have
Yeah,
to
no,
wait
true
to
that.
play, this game is not worth my time.
I think.
Um,
Go ahead, Abdus.
I mean, I just was going to say, I think we've talked on this subject for quite a
Yeah.
lot of time.
I just got one last thing I want to kind of mention, if that's all right.
Sure.
Because Dark and I talked about this the other day, and this is kind of a little tangential, but it's related. Is that Foxhole right now is, as a whole, throughout its whole history, has struggled with scalability. And I've been putting a lot of thought into this and thinking about it a whole lot. But the game is always going to be in a situation where you either have too many or too few players, because the situations, the structures, the way the map's set up, and the way that you can interface with the game is too rigid. And the sweet spot is a very fine player count that you're going to miss. You're either going to be too high or too low, and you're going to be suffering from the problems of having too many or too few players for the game as it's designed. And so some really hard attention needs to be played to how can you offer scalable options so that when the player counts rise and fall, even mid-war, that the game is still playable and the player experience is not impacted. And that's not necessarily an easy puzzle, but there are some pretty good ideas out there to begin to attack that. And that's a whole different topic of discussion. It's related to this though.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is like, there's so much to talk about. There's like so many things that contribute
It's
to
not.
this.
I think what's really evident from everything that we've discussed is it's not one singular issue that is
Exactly.
causing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of.
Accumulation.
It's an accumulation of a lot of issues that have built up over time.
And the frustrating part for me, at least, is we have been constantly like, just like banging pans and just like, lighting
Yeah.
up sirens, going nuts about most of these issues for a long, long time now, and just receiving that, I don't want to call it smug, but it is smug, so I have to call it smug reply, where we're constantly like, the response is the same. Well, oh, we're not worried about the population. Oh, we're not worried about the population. Oh, the population is not a priority for us right now. I think we're at the point where we have to fucking pray that the population will not give, will not break before the 1.0 comes here, or
Yeah.
or something like that, because it's getting dangerously close to that point, unfortunately.
And they may be content with that. Maybe there could be the delusion that they're completely content to disenfranchise all of us, and that we will all come running back to the golden product that they released at 1.0.
Well, it has to be, guys. It
I
has
mean,
to be.
that's
It's the
that's
only
all I can see.
conclusion. Yeah, it has to.
But that's the rough bit is you're gonna have what everyone does is you're gonna have people fade away, fade away. 1.0 will come, people will come in, and either nothing much has changed, or everything what people were assuming is the reality, and then they play for a war or two, and then that's it. They leave,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it's like, even though we were promised, like, yes, Foxhole was a long-term commitment from the dev team, but I mean, I give them props for even wanting to continue this game based off how some of their interactions, the people in the
Sure.
community have been. You know what I mean? Like, I see more reasons for them to be like, fuck, this game's not worth the stress, and just start something else.
You're right though. You're right.
but it's in the same breath. It's like 1.0 is for most game devs. It's like, okay, you know what? We're gonna need like a 3 month relaxation period because Jesus, you know what I mean? Like we're finally there, guys. And to them, that could be like, hey, we're good. Like let's not worry about that. And then us as players, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like think how often we get like update wars. You get what I mean? Like actual patch updates or whatnot that actually change something or get something more meaningful. But we have this. They don't want to lose the reputation of the early access. You know what I mean? As abandoning the game because those are very hard things to just leave. Like you don't want to be a dev team that abandons an early access game, but you could easily slap 1.0 and just take a quote vacation end quote. You know what I mean? And it's real rough because we don't want to be stuck with the product we're assuming we're gonna be getting.
I personally think, and I'm gonna close up on this personally on the issue because we've been going for a long time. But I personally think the this Halloween War was actually a good representation, a good simulation, right? Sort of for a 1.0 scenario. So because you had basically an update war, even if it was smaller with all the new stuff that brought in from the Halloween event and stuff like that. You also had a sale, pretty good sale. I think the game was reduced and stuff. So you have all the elements for a successful hype up war there, right? New content, the game is on sale, is reduced, and all of that. And although all things were pointing towards a high pop war, well, people said no. They came, they saw, they left basically. So
That's even
this should
Yeah.
be a
makes it
this
a lot
should
of
be a
work.
huge this should be a huge red flag if you ask me. I don't know if it's gonna be, but it's just what I'm hoping. I'm hoping this is a huge red flag.
I hope their eyes have opened because this. I mean, I hate seeing people's hard work go to waste, but this, you know what I mean? Like, if tomorrow the next war is a normal war and there's no more, dead harvest, it's like I hope they realize not that the community doesn't give a fuck. It's not that. It's read the devil in the details. There's an issue with your game and you have to take action now. You have to because this isn't like don't worry. Sorry, very unprofessional. Let me just toss my phone. You don't have to worry. Like, don't focus on getting more population. You gotta fix the current what we have right now. We gotta like you can't multiply 1,000 by zero. Doesn't matter what you're expecting. You can aim as high as you want. If your population is zero, you will have nothing to base it off of. And that's what we really need to have the game being focused on is from the bottom for the people for those core people that are still playing, how do we make it better? And then we can go off from there. Because if you focus on the foundations, you can build a better and stronger game just from that.
Right. So we'll just move in for the next sort of thing I want to visit, at least briefly. I don't want to really sit on it. And the reason I want to visit it a bit is, the claimed not so long ago update to the moderation policies and whatnot. And yes, Dutchy, thank you. Sorry, I was on the rush with the PDF, so I fucked up there. Thanks for pointing that out. Misspell on my end. I apologize. So the reason why I wanted to sort of brought this up, and again, I want to make it clear from the start. I'm not necessarily defending the actions behind people getting banned. It's more of a it simply doesn't make sense for me. For example, let's just take one of the examples for a recent permanent ban, right? That guy who wrote, mind you, with fobs on a colonial map. Was it like dog shit game? I think it was dog shit game.
Dog,
Yes.
dog shit. Yeah.
The one interesting aspect of it, in my mind at least, like you guys know how long it takes to build a fob, and this guy literally built a few hundreds of them.
They banned that guy.
Yeah, permanently
Oh
banned them.
my.
Not
Oh
banned
my
them,
god.
permanently banned them. Yes.
Oh my
And
god.
I do understand a ban there for like wasting all those B mats and like just literally griefing the team sort of with those placements and not. I get that. I get it's a legit point. It needs to be established that it's a legit point. Just like wasting that amount of BMATs for nothing that could have went into other useful stuff. The part I really don't get is one, again, the amount of time this guy had to put into all of this. Like, this didn't appear overnight, right? And for the duration of the period, because he was very smart the way he went with it. He first put down dog, and then put down game, and shit, he left it for the last word, and he started from the T, so people can figure out what he's like going for, right? And the point I'm gonna make, even if it's like probably a bit funny, is as long as it only said dog game, nobody really gives a fuck. Not the devs, not nobody. The moment he actually went for the like shit word
The
and
kill.
exactly, that's where that's where they actually started freaking out. They started removing the fobs. They started taking action, right? And
They've got like the policies of like a communist nation. It's like they go on press corps. They get all their questions given to them beforehand just to get approved by the state media, and then shit like this where this guy's like obviously he obviously cares about the game to put that amount of time into a
yeah,
process.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's beautiful.
So yeah, and then it's just like no, silence that voice.
Think of how many BMATs he could have saved if he just went for shit game though.
Yeah, it would have been
That's
way
the first thing I
faster.
noticed. Like, you could have saved yourself so much time, brother.
No,
You
because
just
you
narrowed this
see,
down.
that's the genius of his plan. Like, if you ask me, and it actually it proves a lot, really. Because for the longest time, and I know people were posting it everywhere, it only said dog game, and his name was dog something, and it looked like a brag, basically. It looked like he was just flexing on people, right? And for the long, like, because again, this was like a few days, because you can't build that many fobs that fast. It took him a lot of time to do this. And as long as it said dog game, yeah, sure, no issues there. The issue started when that shit word appeared, and like, why permanently ban him? Again, I get it. Punishment was needed because of griefing or whatever you want to call it. Absolutely agree with it. Make it harsh if you want. Give him a month or two. I don't know. Whatever you think is proper, right? But a permanent ban, honestly, like, I don't know. I just find that
Yeah.
incredible. Especially, and I know a lot of people, because I discussed this with a lot of people, and a lot of people are like, well, that was a long time ago, and the policies changed, and that was another era of Foxhole. This is a new era of Foxhole. But still, like, I will not fucking go over the fact that you have a moderator that actually cheated in this game running around after so long without even as much as a week ban, and then you're permanently banning this guy for like writing with fobs on the map. Like, come on, it's hilarious. Maybe new people don't understand it, but there's a lot of old people like us that remember that shit and know that in the past, I'm not lying to you guys that are newer. In the past, you could have done anything and you would never get banned, like properly banned in this game. Anything, and like literally, you had people cheating and they didn't get banned, right? So this is why it's so fucking hard to stomach for me personally to see people permanently banned for like basically wasting BMATs, because that was.
The thing that's most incredible to me about this, actually, is that this guy's penmanship with fobs is better than I can do with a pencil or pen. Like,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, no, yeah.
it looks good. Like, this is impressive.
Consistent as well. I mean, just the amount of time that guy
Oh my
dedicated to
God.
that project.
Yeah.
Just like I would be flattered as a dev to this game that someone literally put in that amount of time to protest.
Solar says apparently he was banned for lagging the servers because all the fobs lag the servers. Even so, mate, like even that taking into consideration,
Stupid.
is
contrived.
Yeah, is that the permanent bans? So like even if it's like it's mind blowing. Like, did he DDoS the server? Because if he DDoS the server, then you could say he lagged the server. He needs to get permaban. No, he used the tools put at his disposal by the developers. Again, we can argue that it was a waste of materials or whatever you want to put it, but you can't say he exploited the game. He just like used the tools he had. It's a fucking sandbox game. You can build shit. I
I
know.
mean, there's no doubt about it. The moderation and the community manager of this game leaves a lot to be desired. We've been talking about that intermittently throughout this whole stream, and it does, I think, come back to community management, and the
Yeah.
community management that's executed is exceptionally poor, and it is beneath the expectations of everybody that participates in it, and beneath the expectations I think that any of us would have with anybody we interact with.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just a shame, and like you said, like, you pointed out an incredible fact that I personally didn't thought through until now. This guy actually loves the game. It's obvious he does. Nobody fucking does
Yep.
that. Nobody fucking builds 300 fobs, even if it's to say it's a dog shit game. He literally cares about it if he put that much effort into it, and
Yeah.
just like not seeing this and permanently banning him for like basically going against you is like the worst thing you could do, right? Sure, like you can punish him, absolutely, but you should first ask yourself what would determine somebody to put so much work into writing that, right? Like,
Your comparison is spot on, though. You have one of your community moderators that just literally betrays the public trust and goes on and does some terrible things, and then you try to sweep it under the rug. He actually has the character, so I'll give Lurkus some credit that he actually came forward because the moderation or the community manager was going to try to sweep this under the rug, and then Lurkus came forward and admitted to what he did, and tried repent and beg forgiveness.
and
But
props
still,
to
that's not
yeah.
it's not just like, not by comparison to the way they treat everything else.
Yeah, and props to him. And I know the argument there was a lot of asking for people, to be more to forgive and forget, to be more kind and to not like look down upon them. And I can get that. Yeah, that's a good approach. Everybody should be a bit more like a bit more nicer and a bit more compassionate with everybody else. I can see that message going through, but you can't promote that and then come in with something like this, right? That's the problem. The follow up is really really shady, even
Double
if
standards.
it's exactly extremely double standards. Like on one hand, you're saying, guys, stop being mean with people that have did mistake. This guy did a horrible mistake. We need to forgive him. And then when a guy just does something trivial as builds fucking 300 fobs to protest, you're like, no, this guy needs to be permanently banned. We can't allow such a thing in this game.
I mean, that was a lot of things, but it wasn't trivial. Like
Oh,
that,
true. Yeah, that was a bad.
like
that was a bad. That was a very.
trivial at all.
I'll give you that. Absolutely, yeah.
Personally saying, I think him building all the damn fobs was punishment enough. I mean,
Eh,
he had to do that times so many, and it was
I
just
know.
like,
I was thinking that myself. That's like a jail sentence right there.
yeah, it's there's like worse or deaths out there, and this
In
guy
fact,
like
I
committed
would
so much.
I would literally rather sit in a prison cell than
Do that.
build all those fobs.
Jesus Christ.
oh, you didn't get it the straight line. Got to start over.
Oh my! Like I said, the density as well. Jesus fucking Christ! Like the density is incredible.
We don't know how long it takes, Scotty, but you're more than welcome to do the maths for the next stream if you want.
And that's the construction. Don't forget the grinding required to get 200,000 beam mats.
Yeah.
He's got to have had help, hasn't he? He's got to have Logi
Yeah,
dropping off beat mats for him and shit.
help and a lot
You
of
would hope.
auto clickers, because like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and there's any number of examples that we can go through on this subject that maybe we don't need to, but Father Lemons comes to my mind. You got the most recent issue on what I'm going to call the colonial civil war between Sam and what were those guys, the 76th or whatever.
GG,
That
I don't know.
nonsense, that horror show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's extremely one-sided, and it's extremely like, again, I've said this so many times, especially on because I actually risked the mental issues and actually watched the entire thing there with Sam and
Oh my
Gigi,
gosh.
and like it's mind-boggling. Like I said it so many times. Yeah, that those guys from GG were like more than more than like toxic and whatever you want to call it, and they deserve to be to be punished for acting like that. But on the other hand, you can't just punish one side and the other side is just like
Yeah, I think in that circumstance they were both as bad as each other. To
exactly.
Tell you the truth.
Yeah,
And it shouldn't come down to like punishment or something like that. But they just need. I mean, that that type of stuff. If I was to see that happening between two warden clans on the side of the road, I'd pull my truck over, I'd get out, and I'd say to him, "What are you doing? You know what I mean? Stop fighting each other." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I haven't seen that type of shit in the warden. You know, you get your odd like arguments and stuff between soldiers on the front line and stuff. You know, you stole my sniper rifle with 10 clips, blah blah blah. But like,
You met Grom, I see.
yeah. But the like over like important things like concrete and building and stuff like that all seems to be done like with a plan or something like that. If someone comes to our base and says, "Look, guys, I need 150 concrete for this, blah blah blah," if it's if it's tactically relevant, then yeah, we'll give them the concrete. It would even help them transport it. It's just one of those
I
things.
don't know. It's just like I can see the arguments of both, factions, but like in the end, if it gets to the point where one guy is, yelling murder and promising to satchel order vehicles for the rest of eternity,
I have to
and
admit, I didn't get far into the video. I
and
only had about 40 seconds
it's
of it.
it's the other side was like literally dropping the concrete on the ground and then driving a battle tank over it so they can fucking like that. That's a level of like pettiness and like just I don't know.
I can't have it. Nobody can.
Exactly, like, and it devolved in so many ways I can't even describe.
I can't even picture that happening within our faction anymore.
The general idea of it is the response to that needs to be uniform in my head. Like if you have two sides that act as bad as each other, both sides need to to reap the rewards of such actions. You can't just like permaban one guy and then the rest of them just ignore whatever they did. Sure, there's like different measures of different things people do. You don't need to give the same punishment for all of them. But again, it's the same thing. Letting some people just do whatever they want with no repercussions while just going for the permaban on other people because you don't like the way they acted is again very very bad moderation in my mind.
I know we talked about it. In my opinion, the GG guys were way farther out of line than some guys. And I'm not defending what the some guys did there. And as I'll also understand it, the GG guys have a more profound reputation for that kind of stupidity, I guess. And so maybe that's a factor. And so I don't know. I still think that when we talked about it, you're probably right that at least something.
Yeah, no. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying in any way that anybody from some should have been permabanned. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But at least some sort of, like minimum punishment for like dropping concrete on the ground and trying to despawn it, right? Because that's an offense.
And satcheling the other.
And satcheling the other, yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Permanent bans should be reserved for people that are like, the obvious ones like racist. And that type of shit, like doing what some of these guys are doing and getting permanently banned is not warranted, in my opinion.
Well, think of how long it took them to ban Darth, right? You guys remember that situation?
Vaguely.
Like
it took him
more about that than
yes
else,
it took him fucking months of griefing both factions. Like I remember he was like on and off on each faction. And then they banned them from the colonial faction because apparently it was worse on that faction. And then they only allowed them on the Warden faction. And after like 2 or 3 incidents on the Warden faction, they finally, after fucking millions of months of, like going back and forth about it, they finally banned them from both factions. Like that's a great example, Kaz. Like the Darth debacle was extensive. Jesus Christ.
Right. Do we have anything to talk about today, gentlemen?
Yes. Where's one sort of
don't even start with those guys, Grody. Don't even bother.
Well, for
let's go into this over here. I think what we have in store is a lot better.
Anyway, yeah, and just like to shortly just reply to Godi, Vermin has been okay from what we saw on the Warden faction. I think they're pretty much AFK as the rest of the population.
Let's just leave it.
Let's just leave it there. Exactly. Yeah. So we've been talking to our boys here Hans and Klaus, and they sent us some really cool stuff, really cool stuff. And I know if you guys remember from the past, we already showed you some of their work, but now it's I like I don't even think I can use words. I think I should just start showing you guys.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
Like
excited.
I've been waiting.
they've been achieving another level,
Oh my god.
What is this?
another level of production at this point. Like the models look entirely
Exquisite.
exactly. That's the word. That's the word I was looking for right there. That's exactly right. They look
Jesus.
exquisite. Like
That's
the
awesome.
craftsmanship and the details are like incredible. For those of you who don't know, basically, Hans is the one that does the 3D projecting or whatever. I have no clue about stuff like this, so excuse me if I'm butchering it. But anyway, on the projective level, Hans is the mastermind, and then on the cosmetic level, Klaus is just like getting better and better with like the paintings and the like. It's just incredible. I like the top of this fucking jeep. It looks so fucking nice.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, like it's a
I
beauty.
like the fuel tank at the back. They've got
Yeah,
everything spot on, haven't they?
it's
Sick.
Oh, yeah.
it's next level stuff. It's next level
Yeah,
stuff.
this is the real art segment. You know, no anime here.
Yeah, it's the level of detail again is just
See, the
incredible.
person who wrote dog shit needs to teach Klaus how to write though.
Oh Jesus Christ! Yeah, there's. I'm literally like whenever they make a new one, I'm just speechless. I just like sit there and Klaus is waiting
By
for
the-
a
by the-
reaction, and I just can't. I have my jaw just like hanging out.
By the
beautiful.
time the virus dies down and we get to Poland, they'll have a full menagerie of stuff set out for it. Full battle scene. Oh my god.
Yes, yes. Look at this fucking beauty. Look at it. It's fucking incredible.
Oh my god.
Also, they're like going mass production. From what Klaus is telling me, like
What?
they've been pumping them out like fucking non-stop. They're like printing the shit out of them, and yeah, from what I know, they're already like available. If you guys are interested in getting one,
I see the makings of a battle tank turret behind the tank, gentlemen.
yeah,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
that's incoming actually. Nice
Oh
spot there.
really?
Little spoiler right there.
But yeah, it's a very important point. If you guys want to own such a thing, just make sure you talk to Klaus because they're actually like legit going nuts. And I know their fellow Germans are already buying them, buying them like nonstop. So
It's like the rearmament for the Third War.
and it's like Jesus Christ, the amount like let's just continue here because like I know what's coming and I'm already speechless.
I didn't know they were selling them. I'd definitely get on board with that. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh.
you should definitely give Klaus a ring because they have ascensions. Like that thing is an ascension, which is like, mama.
Oh, oh man. I knew she was bigger, but damn.
And again,
God
like
damn!
I was even talking to Doug. This is not necessarily a new feature, but like the painting for Klaus, where like you can see the little rust elements here and there on the tanks and stuff, are like just like oh my fucking god, that looks excellent.
Yeah, looks good, doesn't it?
It's just like want it so badly. Look at this. This is really cool. I love like the the lack of light gives it such a
You could literally pick up. I mean, why don't we just release our own line of 40k figurines, dude? You know what I mean?
I mean with
Actually,
Klaus and
wow.
Hans you could, yeah.
Yeah,
Make our own stat line or what?
make our own codex and everything. Bayonet charge.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like I love the turret so much here, and like this the lack of light and the little green on the oh my god, it's just like oh boy.
Oh man, that's so crazy.
I'd love for them to do what's it called? You know, where you've got the board set out with the tanks and shit, and it's like a still image of a battle. You know what I mean? What's that called?
I know what you're talking about. Like, there's a guy in the Foxhole community who did something similar to that. Made a whole like diorama.
That's the one. Diorama. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. You could do a whole diorama with us. It looks sick as fuck.
Only thing I feel like is how they're gonna do infantry models though. I think they could probably just rip
Oh,
from
they're
whatever.
dead easy. The infantry mods would be dead easy. I mean, you wouldn't even need to create them. You could just buy them from like a World War II diorama thing. I used to do it. It's they all look legit as well. They all look like warden colonial soldiers. If you want that type of shit, you should get the First World War French soldier models. Yeah, I'd love to see like these set up around the statue of Callahan. If they do a statue of Callahan, one of them, I'd definitely buy that. Put it on my
The
shrine
true
and stuff.
version
at home.
of Callahan.
Yeah, I mean, you should give Klaus a heads up about that one because, like, I know for a fact they probably have a shit ton of other stuff prepared and they're always willing to do more. I think they're
Now-
working on some other stuff. I'm not gonna spoil anything. We're gonna probably show it off when it's ready.
Just
yeah.
one thing. Because this is how much I love appreciation of detail stuff. Look on the right picture and just look at the side armor where the tracks are being covered. Just look at that detail. Like oh my god, I'm looking at it more and just like falling more and more in love. Like the more I see, like
Yeah,
all the rust elements and the weathered out. Like you know what I mean? Like it's battle worn.
you can see where I think it's the same tank, but like the one where it's set next to the other one, I think that hasn't been painted yet. And then in the next picture, it's been painted, and it just looks fucking sick.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like is going on there. Yeah, you have a
So that's a prototype, and that's an
that's
actual.
exactly. And like this is good because it's like a sneak preview, and we're gonna probably get more images, but this is already in the making.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
And I'm gonna leave out a small. I'm actually gonna give you guys a small detail I know from Hans. The gun on this thing is actually like you can like move it around and stuff. Like it's actually. Yeah, it definitely rotates and the gun goes up, down, everything.
Yeah.
Hans has put insane.
You're gonna
work on it.
need. He's gonna need a little man in the back of that. Hans, if you're listening, you need a little man in the back of that man in it. Need
That's
razor
so-
on his
it's
pair
so
of
good,
binos
dude.
as well. Sat in the back.
It's so fucking good, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just like incredible. Anywho, I think that's
It's a
that's
little too green for my taste.
well,
Beautiful thing to wrap it up on, though.
It's awesome though.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, at least,
And pos-
at least it's a positive thing, I suppose. It's like the news, you know, when you're watching the news, it's like, oh well, this hospital burned down and this country got nuked, but you know, today these puppies got saved from the river, so everything's fine. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, that's a perfect explanation of what's going on here, I guess. Yeah.
Not all is lost.
Yeah, guys.
Closing
So,
remarks, anyone?
well, yeah, let's just try and end on a positive note, and like just focus on the like this great example of community. And I know there's a lot of other people that really put a lot of effort in creating community stuff. A lot of like I would give shout outs to a lot of people, artists, even like people that did a lot of the tools, the RT tools, the 8 Global HQ, because we all know Castro unfortunately is not managing it anymore. But like, I feel like like we should still be appreciated of the work that he put in, for example, and in maintaining it and in creating it. And there's a lot of other people that helped him on that project. Setfire, Mulan are good examples, and the list goes on and on, right? Because there's a shit ton of people doing so much incredible work on a game that's not that big if you think about it, right? Because like aside from huge wars, the population is not that crazy. So the horizon of these people actually getting the recognition they deserve for all of this is very tiny. Like there's
yeah.
no satisfaction. It's only passion. Mostly passion here.
The game does not deserve the passion of
Yeah,
the members of the community.
absolutely.
Definitely
Like
not.
amount of work and like sweat and tears and like but
I'm really thankful for it. I am
oh,
really thankful for
absolutely.
it, but it doesn't. The game and especially the development team do not deserve the amount of passion behind some people's projects for this game. Absolutely sick.
It's
Very well
incredible.
done.
I'm certain that there's like a lot of AAA numbers there that don't benefit like out of like this much attention from their communities. With I don't know about the volume, but the quality is what I'm talking about. Like the quality,
Yeah.
like the example earlier with these 3D models from Klaus and Hans, like that's perfectly 3D quality for like professional stuff. You go in a store and buy stuff like that, and that's the level of craftsmanship you expect from.
Right now, this is the time for the devs to really step up their game in a major way. Like for example, unfortunately, I know we have people hard at work trying to keep Foxhole Global alive, but it's not global, right? It's global, right?
Yeah, the name, yeah, Foxhole Global. Well, it was Foxhole Global, but I guess in the future we'll see.
So like they need like this is like for like this is a good step if they were actually to implement, at least the core of Foxhole Global, integrate it in the game. That we know is a step in the right direction. You know what I mean? Like that shows that, they do care about like the coordination of Foxhole, and like, hey guys, you know what? We know that the guys can't keep up with it. We're gonna do our best. We got the core of Foxhole Global integrated in Foxhole. Hopefully that should be good enough. We don't really plan to do anything more, but we just got the rough basics of it, so you guys have something to do. And it saves, like, the gentlemen that are right now working real hard. They just got the code, and they're just like they're trying to configure it themselves to keep this great tool alive.
Uh,
Um, I think that I have to emphasize something. I think I've said this before in the past, but I think especially after this stream, it's quite prudent. It's not too late. It's not all doom and gloom. There is time to save the game that we love, and I hope and pray after all of these years that the development team will finally use this ridiculously passionate resource that they have right on their doorstep. The players, and get some real feedback from people that are not just yes men. Go out there and get the feedback that you need. Send your community manager out to the clans, get some real solid feedback for what needs to be done in order to improve player retention. Because I ain't no expert in most of the things in my life, but I can tell you something now. I know a lot about this fucking game, and please, please use the resources of the veterans, because we're dying to tell you how to improve things if we know that we're being listened to. So please, please try and get on that and try and put something out there.
It's pretty sad the more you say that too, with the resource, with veterans being the resource, and that's becoming a less of it's becoming more and more rare because we're losing more and more veterans as we speak.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's all doom and gloom at the moment. Yeah, nobody's saying otherwise. At the moment, it's terrible. We've lost a lot of veterans. We're going to continue to lose a lot more if things don't improve. But if they at least show that they're willing to listen to feedback from people that are not going to just agree with everything that they do and say, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea," if they actually put the feelers out and send their community manager out to do his job, then we will have the feedback that we need to be taken back to actually get put in, to improve things in the game and change things that are relevant to the current situation.
Kaz, you got anything?
I think Kaz had to shoot off. He
Did
warned
it?
us. Yeah, he warned us. He might
did,
have to.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Moment of silence, right?
before we go to actually closing this up, I'm not, I found something funny and I wanted to ask you guys if you're interested. I'm seeing fancies like streaming some Dead by Days or some stuff like that. I just wanted to ask you guys if you want to just raid them for fun. Thought it
Yeah,
might be
let's do that
funny.
after the
I think
stream.
you can
Yeah.
bring the stream to raid him. I think there's an.
Yeah. I found the button, so I'm just asking.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
We can go.
We're
Give
gonna
him a
rate him.
heart attack. We're gonna give him a heart attack, boys.
And stay for the stream too, because he's a good dude. He's a good dude. If you guys enjoy it, keep watching it. You have nothing else to do as well. You know what I mean?
Right. How do we do this?
Well,
I think we just sit and wait. Razor does the
yeah, I can do it. You guys say your farewells, and then I'm gonna go ahead.
All right,
Farewell,
gentlemen.
brothers. Stay out of
Have a
those
good one.
foxholes. Remember to cook
Them
those
grenades.
grenades.
Yeah. Check. See you guys next time, and just keep on with the good fight. Also,
Forget about Under the Helmet every Tuesday.
and also don't forget we have a channel on
Thank you for
Discord.
the follow, you nonsense.
Come in whenever you feel like. Shoot us questions, shoot us topics, shoot us whatever you guys feel like. And the last thing I'm gonna say, big shout out to Antraxen for giving us a nice little debut here with with the
Yes, thank
subscribe
you.
battle.
Thank you,
That
brother.
was very
All
kind
of
of
you.
you. Thank you guys. Everybody else as well. Yeah, you guys were like give us a nice little surprise there, and we really appreciate it. Okay, let's go raid fancy. Let's go do this.
Let's do this.
Let's fucking go, lads! Are we there yet?
Almost. Almost.
How do you join it?
No, it's. We're just supposed to chill here.
Oh,
and
there
he's
we
gonna-
go.
Yeah.
There you go.